Hello, hello. Pretend that you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. Gotta get on here and get set up here. So, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. I think most of North America is probably their afternoon here because it's about just before 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And the reason I picked this time is at 4:37 my time here. I'm out on the East Coast right now. We hit the full moon. We hit the July full moon, and it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting as we go through these times. And what was really interesting is that recently, yesterday actually, I pulled a card for what our guidance was for the full moon of July 2025. And I pulled, like, essentially that whenever we are getting pulled out of our alignment, whenever we're finding some constriction, anxiety, we're not in the present moment, we need to put emphasis and focus on getting ourselves back to the present moment. So today, I thought, since we are going to be here meeting for the full moon, we're going to go through a guided visualization of what you want to create and intend to create so we can go forward, because this is a very important time of putting our energy in what we want and avoiding the things we don't want, right? And so it's all about when we catch ourselves thinking of things that are pulling us into lower energies or stress and anxiety, getting ourselves back to what do we want to put our thoughts and our energy into, and back into the present moment. So whether that is the moment or whether that is on what you want to create, which is what we really want to try. Oh, hello, Kanal. Oh, I'm great. I hope you are having a wonderful day as well. Hello, Ayman and Michaela. Hello, welcome, welcome. So I was just going over essentially what our focus is going to be. Where am I from? I am from Canada. I'm currently traveling through the US. I'm actually out in Delaware right now. And yes, I do believe in God. God, whatever word you resonate with, God, the creator, the consciousness that runs everything. Well, thank you, Kanal. You're a very beautiful soul. Hello, Jordan. Okay, so let's get back to the idea of what I pulled yesterday. So yesterday, the guidance was that as we go through this full moon, every time that we get pulled out of alignment, so we find ourselves getting triggered, anxiety, upset, or thinking about things that we don't necessarily want to happen, we want to bring our focus, and this was the guidance from the cards, back to what we want to create. What do we want to create? So kind of getting our focus as much and get ourselves off from wandering as much as possible. And this is a lifelong practice. I've definitely been working on this my entire life. So the focus, though, is to put more emphasis on it. And it was very interesting because listening to some astrologers, they were saying the same thing, that this time that we're coming into with this full moon is a time to put the intention into what we want to create. So it's like pulling us out of the things we don't want to create and those thoughts and the negative or lower energies, and bringing ourselves back to whether it's our relationship with God, whether it's our health, whether it is abundance, a financial gain, whatever it is that we actually want to create. That's where we want to bring our focus as much as possible this coming month. So I think of it this way: as I was walking my dog today, and suddenly we're just totally caught off guard. Semi just honks her horn. We're not really in a place that you would hear semis really honking horns. So that totally caught me and both myself and my dog off guard. We stopped what we were doing, and it just totally distracted the thought I was doing in my mind as I was walking, and even him and what he was doing. So it's interesting because that's what we really want to do, and what we want to focus on is creating more structure, more, maybe that's not the right word, but more ability to bring ourselves out of those moments. So like that, the idea with that story is that it brought us back into the present now, like distracting me from that moment, and wherever I wasn't in that present moment. That horn just kind of brought me back, and I was like, oh wait, I'm here with my dog, and we all both noticed it, and I'm like, okay, let's continue, right? So it's getting aware of those thoughts. So hello Blueberry, hello everybody, hello one, and the Railway Vlogs. As I mentioned, earlier on I mentioned I was from Canada. I'm in the US right now visiting. Instagram ID is probably going to match the Breathe Within. I don't it goes and everything gets posted over there. I don't really log into it and follow it so much that, I unfortunately not. So what we're going to focus, now everyone is here, we're going to get started because the full moon is in about 2 minutes or just under 2 minutes. So take a moment, sit up tall, and what is it that you want to create for these next 30 days or continue to manifest going forward in the future? What is it that you want to see? What is the first thing that comes into your mind? And let's bring our energy into that. So think of it in your mind's eye. What is it that you want, or in your brain? And let's bring our emphasis and focus on it as we go through this guided journey today. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a guided meditation, and that focus, what you want to create, is what we're going to come to. So while we get started, I wanted to pull a wisdom card. So this is the wisdom from God, the divine, our guardian angels. What is our wisdom? So this is going to be something that they want us to keep in mind point, so you don't have to stare at me while we go through the guided meditation. But I thought we would I'm sitting here. These are just positive quotes. So let's go here, and communication. So this seems appropriate, right? It is how we communicate to what we want to create. So when you communicate honestly, people feel your authenticity and respond accordingly. Truth has a resonance that causes others to trust you intuitively. Your guidance is to speak from the heart and focus on the good and positive. The outcomes of your discussions will reflect this. Communication works both ways, so be truly present when listening. This will improve all of your relationships and business dealings. Be mindful of what you say, speak wisely. Forgo gossip and negativity. Instead, choose inspiration, honesty, and watch as your relationships blossom. So this is very much kind of that same idea where, let's get out of that negativity, the gossip, those things that are those lower energies. Let's bring our thoughts into the higher realms, into the higher energies. And then our affirmation is, I communicate honestly and wisely. So that is just to kind of back up where we're going. So now we are in the time of the full moon for July. So let's make ourselves comfortable. Come into a comfortable seated position, sit up tall, take a deep breath in, and you can close your eyes or just find something to gently gaze at. If it's uncomfortable for you to close your eyes. And as we close our eyes, we're noticing. We're going to notice is what is coming up. So as we take our breath in, are there thoughts that come up? Allow yourself to become aware in this moment if there is anything coming into your mind. And then take another deep breath in, and whatever it is, it's not good or bad, it is what it is. Let your mind release the attachment. Let it go. Now let's bring in what we wanted to create. So at the beginning, I had mentioned, what do you want to put your energy into for these next 30 days? And let's bring it into an I am statement. So this is, I am abundant. I am healthy. I am connected to God. Whatever it is, make it an I am statement. And let's bring that into our mind's eye. Maybe we see it, maybe we hear it, maybe we're looking and seeing it being written if our eyes are open. Let's internally repeat it and then let it go. As we go night, at any moment this afternoon, evening, when you're watching this, that you get distracted, just let it go. Just let that go and allow yourself to come back to your I am breath. So if it is something that you have a problem with, I am free of whatever it is, or I am clean, I am in alignment. Thank you, I am. I am, I am. So let's close our eyes if our eyes are not closed. And let's come on this guided visual prayer today. In our mind's eye, in our imagination, we're going to start to see ourselves in a beautiful prairie meadow. It's a wonderful summer day. It's not too hot or too cold. A little in the distance, we can see the big trees and we can hear the birds. We're standing near lots of wild grasses. We can gently see them blowing in the wind. We notice a bee gently buzzing around, doing its business, pollinating the flowers. And then we look down in our imagination, in our mind's eye, and we look down, we spread our toes, and we feel ourselves ground, feeling connected and ready to create. And as we stand here, we notice that the sun is right over us. The sun, the light, the energy from the angels and the divine is right overhead. We start to gaze up, gently squinting, and we notice that the energy and rays from the sun are starting to penetrate through our body, through our head, into our neck, into our body, torso, through the legs, and into the ground. We feel ourselves completely aligned and completely open. We're being activated by the divine light of Source and God consciousness. This energy envelops our entire body. It's like almost as if a waterfall of this energy is just flowing over us, surrounding us in this beautiful, holy light. And as we're surrounded and protected, let's come to our heart center. And let's bring that energy of love. So imagining it, intending that right at the heart center, we're feeling the love and the gratitude for this beautiful, divine, abundant energy. Imagine, if you can't quite feel it, or you're feeling it right from that heart center, that love opening and connecting with this energy from the sun, from the divine. As you feel more and more connected, and more appreciative and more grateful, we internally smile, curling the corners of our mouth up. And we bring our focus back to our I am. I am healthy. And as we hear those words, we imagine that they're completely being surrounded by that light with us. We feel as if it's already done. I am healed. I am in perfect alignment and balanced health. I am. Feel that gratitude for that I am that you are creating. Intend that it's coming and it's opening right from the heart center. And you can feel it at that deep level. It's almost like that heart energy starts to surround your I am statement, giving it an extra boost of this beautiful, ethereal, holy light. Stay here for another moment. Take another beautiful deep breath in. And as we exhale, letting go of any distracting thoughts. And as we inhale, maybe if this resonates with you, we see our I am statement glowing and becoming brighter. I am. I am. If that doesn't resonate, stay with you, noticing the breath come in and the breath gently leave. Letting this energetic work here continue for one more moment, letting this divine light completely surround us and help us up level. Take another deep breath in. Bringing our focus one final time to our I am of what we are creating as we go forward. I am health. I am a healer. I am abundant. We take that final moment, feeling that gratitude or imagining that gratitude, and we'll let that I am go. As we see ourselves in the prairie meadow, we notice that this work is starting to end. We are done for today. Our intention has been set out. And anytime we get distracted over these next 30 days, we're going to bring our intention right back to what we want to create. We're setting this now while we're here in this beautiful, imagined prairie meadow. We set this intention that as we go through the next 30 days or so till the next full moon, that every time we find our energy out of alignment, we get angry, fearful, stressed, we will make an effort to bring our focus right to the now, right into the moment, and back to what we want to create. So in this moment, it's always perfect. And keeping that in our mind's eye as we go forward. The energy from the sun starts to lift. We're resonating, vibrating from this beautiful, energetic upgrade in this beautiful, imagined prairie meadow. As the energy starts to dissipate, we take one more deep breath in. And as we exhale, we imagine we're wriggling our toes and just grounding one last moment in this meadow. And then as we take our next breath in, we wiggle our toes and our fingers and maybe start to move our arms and legs, coming back into our bodies, back into the moment here in this now. So as we come in, the guides, the divine God is guiding us that we want to bring our attention as much as possible, put our focus into what we want to create, avoid or adjust our thoughts as quickly and as clearly as we can when we're finding ourselves in those things that we don't want to create or are not good for us. You know, we know stress, anger are not good for us. So as soon as we notice those, do the best to come back to this present moment. And if it helps, use your I am and put that energy in what you want to create. This is the time right now. I do know a little bit of I follow a little bit of yoga tradition. So if you do have any questions, let me know. I do follow yogic traditions. I follow Christianity as well. I kind of have an interesting spiritual belief. It's a mixture of a lot of things that I resonate with. I definitely love the universe, the universal consciousness, God, and appreciate that, the only reason we're here is because of that divinity, and that we are here, and each of us here are here to help, heal, and serve using our own unique tools. And this is a great time to use those, and this is a great time to heal ourselves. Our mind is the most impactful pharmacy that exists, and we get addicted to the chemicals. So being always doing the same thing is not really that great for our brain. So we really want to stretch ourselves and start challenging ourselves. So my challenge for you this month is, the sooner you notice yourself being pulled out of alignment, to come back to the moment. Because in the moment, it is perfect. Or come back to your I am and what you actually want to create. Because the more we do it, the more it becomes like a repetitive part of our lives. And instead of dwelling and thinking of things we don't want and inadvertently creating them, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but however, we don't need to make ourselves stressed and anxious. Let's bring ourselves back to what we want. Peace, harmony, health, abundance, more connection to the divine, whatever it is here that you are looking for. So thank you so much. Can you tell me why you think it's okay that God advocates for slavery? Well, that depends on what you believe related to God, right? I'm not going to get into context of that type of stuff, because I'm not here to change anybody's beliefs, and I know what I personally believe and how I see divine and God. I see it a little bit different. I see ourselves, I don't know if everybody is seeing those little plastic balls that have like the little plastic little points around it. So it's all pointy, but it's super soft because they've kind of got it, they're called bunchums and stuff like that in the States. I feel like that we're kind of like that. Like God is that round ball, and we are all those little pokey parts of the ball connected to God. And that's, whether you believe it or not, that's okay. The reality is we are here, and we are all going through a spiritual journey, and whatever helps you go through the spiritual journey, that is a wonderful tool. When you feel negative vibes, the point with what we're doing today is to catch those and acknowledge them, and then choose to change whether you're going to give energy to those. So if you're feeling stressed or anxiety or like the negative, like, ooh, choose, okay, maybe it is an instinct. Maybe it's something that I have to be aware of. Or is it my mind wandering and bringing me down, keeping me in lower vibrations because my mind is addicted, right? I'm not sure what you're asking about, what I mean by point me to the conclusion of the ball thing. There's a lot of things that I've come across. that would be it. It's just a lot of and my own personal experiences. Everything I do is really based on my own personal experience and what has helped me go through this spiritual journey. And so I can only offer what has helped me. Well, Misko, I appreciate that, and I can get into very controversial things, and I don't want to alienate people, because I get that my beliefs are not necessarily the norm beliefs, and I know a lot of things, and a lot of things have been very manipulated by humans, and if humans are part of the process of making things, we have to be questioning items. And that's all I'm going to say on that. That is just that's my personal opinion. And, whether, I'm not going to lie. I've been told many times I've gone through the spiritual path, because it is not, I don't follow a traditional organized religion. I follow I follow very much the guidelines that you treat people the way you want to be treated. And and living a good life, like being a decent person, respecting other people, having good moral compass is a basis of my beliefs, which overlap with many different religions, but I may not necessarily vibe with the whole thing, right? And that's okay. Who's this Amish gangster? Could it be possible that after life, this life, would be like we're being born. I feel like it's very possible. I feel like it's very possible. I don't know for sure. It's we all get an opportunity to find out what happens at the end, right? And that's wonderful, Joe. You know, all power to the Christ and the Lord and Jesus and God and the divine, right? The angels and the guides that protect us. If there's nothing, we'll find out. Fair enough. We're gonna find out at that moment if there is nothing, right? And I've had many, like the spiritual thing. All of us, I feel like you come to a point in your life where you find it in how whatever tools, whatever groups, whoever comes into your alignment and resonates with you at the time is there to assist you going through that, and that's only a positive, right? And so whatever you need to assist you in connecting to the divine, we need more people connecting and knowing they are, we're all love. I feel like we do all have a base reality that we all want the best for each other, and we've got to get past our differences to what is really important, right? And that's just my personal opinion. What I find is spiritual? That's an interesting question. I think it's a personal experience. So, you can go through the motions of doing things and not be spiritual at all. So you can pray but not really be a very spiritual person. You can go to church and not be a very spiritual person. So I feel like it's an interesting thing. I feel like it's a lot of how you are, how you connect, and do you feel that connection to the divine. If you are spiritually connected, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't had that connection, that may not resonate, right? No, that's perfect. And Joe, I will never be here to tell you that you're wrong or right. If that is your belief, that's wonderful, and I am glad that Jesus is there to help you. No, we are spiritual beings in a human body. That's my personal opinion. We came here as spiritual beings, and we've been limited into a 3D body. So it's a good experience being here, because without the body, we'd be no bodies. However, they've scientifically proven that when somebody does leave this realm and pass away, 8 grams goes with it. So there's clearly a spirit and energy. The spiritual is part of this world, and we've kind of been disconnected, and we're trying to find our way through it, right? And where do we go with it as we evolve and as spiritual beings in these human forms, right? That is correct. Superman was an illegal alien. He didn't get his papers. Nobody told him he was allowed to just land there. But he does help people. And that's exactly it. He helps people. So, would we, if we go that, would we count him as not being a spiritual being and being as important as a normal human? Because he looks like us, but he's not, right? Does that make him different? Well, yeah. But does it make him not a spiritual being? Because he does good things and clearly, care, from the storyline, right, cares about people, but he was adopted by humans as well and taken in. Obviously, there's not a lot of prejudice when you look like the race of the alien that you land in, right? Oh, I definitely believe the spirit exists without the physical form. That's when we go back. Whatever that is, we come back into that energy. I personally believe it's energetic. We are energy and vibration. It is magic that we stay together in this physical form. It is legitimate magic. If you get to a microscopic level, there's more space in us than us being of a physical matter. So it is really of the divine magic that we even exist and hold together as an entity, right? I guess it could be 8 grams of gases. However, the science they were actually studying it. I feel like they put in things to that. But, that's me giving them the grain of salt that the scientific study was done properly. Yes, that would be physical, right? Because that there would be a physical... I don't know, because the reality is that's saying that there is some weight to the energetic realm, which is, quite, I feel like there's a lot of things are much more possible than we believe. It's only impossible if we believe it's impossible, right? Exactly, David, exactly. Like, if you want to bring good to fellow people and you're not going out to hurt and harm them, that's being a spiritual being, really. Like, that you want to be here, and that, you do want to see people do better. I feel like there is a lot of people that are very lost and are not spiritual. I also wonder sometimes if there is some that aren't even necessarily human. It's a question I have to ask. Parking tickets send you to hell. Oh dear. That's funny. That's funny. Yes. Yes. I know no one's got, it's interesting because it makes me think of definitely the near death experiences where people will come back and say that they heard all these things, they saw themselves being, worked on in the emergency room or wherever where they were at, and they could repeat back conversations with that doctors had around them and stuff like that. So it's interesting because there's a lot of things we don't understand, and that I will be the first to be. I'm open to always learning and taking a new perspective in. Whether I agree completely or not, that doesn't matter. I'm going to take that perspective in and allow myself to be open that if there's more information to support it or not support it or whatever, then I'll go with it, right? But being flexible in the way we see reality, especially right now, I feel is going to definitely help us. What the message for this next 30 days is, put that energy into what you want to create going forward. Well, yes, the best evidence we have is that the physical is all that exists. And then you get into questionable things like the moon, and then studies with the moon. That I know Russian scientists, so maybe if you find that questionable, but Russian scientists, after they did a bunch of studies with the moon, their summary up was that it was the best solution they had on that one, or the best way to describe and explain why the moon doesn't fall into Earth, and because it doesn't actually really make any sense, was that we are all en masse imagining it was the best outcome they could get. It was like one of them. I don't know. It suspiciously looks like Star Wars and the Death Star. Putting it out there, right? Well, because we get attached to the physical body. So it's interesting because it is the mind. It's not the spirit. It's the mind that we will attach to the mind over our trust and our spirit. So that's like the egoic mind. And when we are more attached to the physical realm than the spiritual realm, I feel like it's much easier to get sick and be more open to the illnesses. Not saying you won't ever get an illness from things being around. However, when where your energy is and how it is affects your health. And it is. Your spirit is, we forget it. We're often so busy doing so many other things, and that's part of it is surviving, that we're not doing the spiritual work, which is really our personal relationship with God in whatever way that is. So the spirit is that willpower, but our mind is strong. So the point is that there is things calling the placebo and this nocebo effect. So if you believe something and something's going to heal you, Big Pharma wishes that didn't exist. People heal themselves getting those sugar pills because they believed they would heal them. You have the reverse, though. If they believe it's not going to heal them, or you have a doctor saying you are going to die within this amount of time, even if you get over the illness you went to the doctor for, people will die in that period of time because they believed it so much. So it's really, I feel like a lot of it is how attached we are to this reality. If we're attached to the limitations that we have been programmed to, we're going to see limitations that, we're not able to heal ourselves, that we aren't, these powerful divine beings that are perfect and can heal themselves, right? And it's we have been put into limitations. However, we really have unlimited possibilities, but we have to get ourselves over the limitations. So your spirit is always in the background calling for you to connect to it. It's whether you're putting the work to actually connect back to the spirit and back to the divine, right? So it's interesting. There's so many things. I like the esoteric / the world we don't really understand fully, right? Yes, that is true. Like, your brain gets damaged, you can be a totally different person. And I always find that really interesting, and especially people that wake up speaking a different language. Very, very interesting, because then it makes you go, well, are we all either interconnected, so psychically, and somehow you had gone into somebody else's brain and learned the language? Is it a past life? It goes into all these things that are those things like, well, how does that happen, right? Well, I didn't know that, and I've never heard that study. However, it is very much that same thing, right? Like, if you are putting the intention that you are going to be healed and fine and you're going to get over whatever your illness is, and you can really get your energy and frequency in alignment, miracles happen. And I believe you frequency with the divine frequency, with your healing frequency, and you get everything into alignment, because we are frequency, we can heal. But we can also get ourselves so out of alignment that the body does give up and we're not healing, right? And that's what we're seeing en masse is we've had lots and lots of people where our frequencies aren't in alignment. That's why we're ill. And there's reasons that our frequency is in alignment. There's a lot of things that bombard our systems to keep us out of alignment. Energy, like frequency, energy, the things that are measurable but you cannot see. That is what we are really. Like, we are energetic beings, and we know this because you can feel people's energy. Straight up, you can feel people's energy. So, and yeah, when you get a scan and stuff like that, we are energy, so we will resonate at frequencies. And this is what they talk about very much in the yoga philosophies and alignments with chakras, is getting those each chakra, which is related to different physical bodily-ish things, as well as spiritual and emotional. When certain parts of the frequency are in alignment, they know those will cause those imbalances in those areas. So that's an interesting thing, because the frequencies overlap with colors, because color is a frequency, sound is a frequency, and all of those, we are frequency. And like I mentioned earlier, again, we are more space than physical matter. Yet that is the one thing we can physically prove, which we do at a very young age. We fall, we hurt ourselves, we believe that that's physical, right? So that's how that kind of works in our mind. So how you have attributed anything to the spiritual or divine, as you call it. But I don't understand what you mean by that. That the spiritual divine showing me and presenting, I guess, miracles, you can call them, putting out, praying and connecting and getting an alignment, and then having situations that almost seem like they divinely aligned that I wanted to happen. Like, there's certain things that just show me that there is a spirituality. Like, when you get, somebody I follow calls it oncology, when you get those things that are just really weird coincidences, right? It's the messages of the divine, the spiritual, the energy of God that are sending us these messages, and it's up to us to kind of go, well, what does this mean? Why did we see somebody or say something about something, and then we see it, and then it's not talking about when you're looking something online and then or you're talking about buying something and then you get online things. I'm talking about like in real life, but you'll have, all these things. It just seemed weird that you were talking about it or talking about somebody and then they call you, or a situation happens that's related to it, right? These are all ways that there's the magic of the bigger life and the spirituality and the connection of how everything communicates, which I don't necessarily understand, but there is something divinely working there. Well, it could be science, and I could say, in fairness, I'm in Japan, I can't rule out everything. I can't rule that I'm not being completely manipulated by alien entities. In truth, I can't. I have no proof whether that's happening or not. I have no proof in anything. And anybody going down the spiritual realm, you have to have your own spiritual connection to know, and that becomes your personal proof by the experiences that you have, right? And so that's the truth, is that things, personal experiences will lead people to have that divine connection, and then they know what it is. And if you've never had it, you can't explain it, and you know, it's what it is. Like, you can feel it. I don't know how else to explain it. You're helping, you're in alignment and flow. You have less restrictions in your life. You feel like you're being supported as you go forward. Not always though, because sometimes we're also led on the wrong path. And then when we feel like we're not being supported, maybe it's just because we're not supposed to be doing that, right? Well, the scientific method to the natural world, it's us trying to understand it. We don't still understand it completely, because even in the natural world, frequency affects all natural life here on this planet. So we have like Schumann resonance and energetic things, and that changes a lot of things. So it's what content deleted. Oh yeah, is this I'm gonna say that's somebody who's I believe that's a troll. YTV, YouTube visualization. Content deleted. We saw that your live is embarrassing content. Thank you. Thank you. You must be extremely intolerant of other people's beliefs. Science does admit that we don't know how everything works. Like, there is so many scientific experiments that they wish they didn't have, because it doesn't, how we've been taught to live in this kind of box of reality, it doesn't fit in. And one is like I always forget what it's called, the quantum dot experiment, where the observer changes the outcome, which we, the observer, so if somebody knows what's going on in this experiment and they put out their intention, it changes the outcome of the experiment. If no one knows this experiment's coming on or going on, it has the predicted scientific results. So that's another one, which it's outside, it goes into the quantum level, where these things we don't understand, right? I'm not saying science isn't going to get more adjusted, but it's science and spirituality are one in one. Like, there's a lot that kind of overlap, I believe, in my personal opinion. So, you know, that's just how I feel like that's going to work. And, you know, we're evolving, right? Because we don't always know everything. And as we get more information, and we can improve that information. What's my age? Old enough to make a YouTube. That's my age. You never ask a lady their age. Anyways, I am going to let you guys continue on with your beautiful evenings. I will be going live on Sunday, where I will do an overview of the energy for the week, and then we'll look at each of the days. And so if you want to join me for that, and if you do have any questions, you can always come into the chat and I'll answer some questions as well. And science does not have any evidence for spiritual divine. Yeah, I'm aware science doesn't want to say that there's so many questions that they cannot actually answer, and there's so many scientists that call themselves atheists, and then they go down that quantum hole and realize they can't, like, the science doesn't, we don't have that science, and it starts to give them more of a spiritual perspective, that there is an observer behind everything. God, consciousness, Jesus, whatever you want to call that. All top scientists are atheists. I don't know that for sure, because I have no statistics. It wouldn't surprise me though. Nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing. I'm a very negative person. Well, again, it's interesting because you're saying in your comment, I am very negative. Well, you're creating that. You're creating that by saying it. And it really takes this moment of observation to start to change where you're putting your energy and the thoughts. Because I'm really about fixing our brain more so. Like spirituality is a huge part of it. And I feel like that helps to assist in clearing the mind. But it really is about us getting our minds healthy again, right? Seeing clearly under less stress. So, I am positive. I'm a positive person. I'm a half full kind of person, right? Like reversing it to what you want to create, and you keep repeating it to yourself, repeating it and repeating it. You are actually doing you're doing a version of propaganda to yourself or brainwashing, because you're repeating it versus something outside of you telling you it. You start telling yourself this. And it's very, one thing I love doing, which helps me, is making passwords my I am statements. So whatever I want to create, especially like whatever you're logging into and you do it all the time, I am, and then whatever it is that you're creating, and making that your password, because however many times you're putting those passwords in a day, you're constantly saying it to yourself. And very negative person, don't worry about the why. If that is how you are, it's that moment to just go, you know what, that's how I felt. I don't have to be that. And that's the point of learning about being in the present moment, is we get to choose in the present moment. And each present moment gives you the next moment of opportunity to change your reality. So choosing to be like, okay, I feel negative. Nope, I'm positive. And maybe you have to go play a ridiculously happy song. Often what happens, especially if I'm really struggling, I just force myself to smile, and I'm forcing it so much that it actually starts to make me laugh. Whatever you need to. The first thing is acknowledging and seeing those thoughts that you don't necessarily like, and feeling like, oh, I am really negative. Okay, well, great. Now you don't have to be. This moment, you're not negative anymore. Maybe the next moment you're more negative, and then the moment after, and the next moment you're not negative, right? Catching those thoughts. Blueberries look like my eyes. Oh, well, thank you. I think that's actually a little bit of glare. My eyes are actually blue, but then there's a little, that adds extra blue from my screen. That is, interesting, M Japan, talk about being positive in a North Korean work camp, because I resonate with that completely. Like, how do you stay positive when you're in that type of scenario? And that is the calling of that spiritual calling, that you have to trust that for whatever reason you are there, that there is some reason to whatever happened, whether it's a learning for the mass to why you ended up in that place, whether it is that there's this bigger plan, and find that divine connection, because that is the only thing that can keep you going. Because I feel like, or your option is like you just give up the will to live, which you can then do, because your mind is super powerful, and that would be another way you could get out of that. But there's lots of people starving and stuff like that. You have to come back to in your existing moment at this time. In this moment, in this time, you got your device, you're able to communicate online. If you're not starving and you've got a roof over your head, that moment is totally a perfect, great, wonderful moment. And that might be the only thing you have to do consistently, is just remind yourself that right now, none of that is happening. You're not starving, you're not shot, you're not bleeding to death or whatever. And it might be kind of pessimistic to start, but it's the way you have to start to reprogram yourself in whatever way to get more into that positiveness. Well, I don't think any of that is justifiable. Japan, like, anything done to children is not justifiable, and when you're hurting children, and I, and the whole thing is, like, when we come down, is not necessarily ever forgiving and letting go, because it doesn't justify those wrong actions. It's about learning that we have to let go of that energy, because we're the ones that suffer through the anger, which has been a lifelong journey of myself that I still work on a regular basis, is remembering that there is things outside of our control. And if it's making us unhealthy, and getting us out of that present moment and creating our divine guided spiritual life or whatever, just pulling us out from creating what we want, we have to put our thoughts into what we want, right? It's now, this is where we come to that choice. We can choose to not dwell on it, even though there's a huge amount of things that are happening worldwide, all over the place, that are wrong. And, you know, we can only control our own actions, and that is the truth. Cool, the glasses. You want to see my blueberry without my glasses? You want to see my eyes? I don't know. Are you taking, I don't know, because there's some scam about biometrics and you steal my eyes. Well, there is a reason for everything. Okay, and so it's interesting because we've been traveling through the US. And as we've been traveling through the US, the storms have literally followed. So when we've left an area, they've then had severe flooding. I made it not a funny joke. It wasn't really, it was like a weirdly, not really funny, but kind of a joke. Like, I feel like I've been bringing these storms. Like, what is it that I'm just traveling ahead of these storms and they're literally following us as we've been going through these different places? And divine timing, right? I wasn't meant to be there. That wasn't my situation and my karma or my whatever it is in reasoning to be there. And for whatever reason, you know, they got there, and you know, it may not be a reason we can justify, because I'm not going to justify that anybody should ever be there. It was what it was, and that there was some reason that happened, right? And I feel like most of those things, when they come, they're examples for us to learn from and to wake up the rest of society, if that actually works, right? To actually get people motivated. Oh, well, thank you, LeBron James. Really? Doing illegal stuff? Don't please. Don't please. I would really appreciate that if you didn't. You can make me doing stupid stuff, okay, but please. I'd like to continue to walk free. Yeah. No, I know. I get that. And there's, you know, we can dwell on the negative, because, you know, like I said, people can steal your identity. Bad things happen all the time, and you need to do what you can do within the realm of your reality. And the more that we can fix our minds, fix ourselves, and just feel ourselves heal, that is, like, I do believe it's going to affect everything else, because this dysfunction, this sickness that has been in our societies can't be maintained when you don't have a sick society. When you have a sick society, you're going to have a sick culture, and the illness that we see with all these dark things. And when people come and are no longer sick, these things don't have that. You know, I'm not going to say that it makes all darkness go away. It doesn't necessarily, but it's not to the extremes, because it just can't, because you've got people that are not sick. You've got mentally healthy people that want to do the right thing. But there's a lot of things that go to that. That's a whole other rabbit hole. I feel, LeBron James, that you would not tell me if you were in the Swedish government. I'm just saying, I don't know if there's a lot of LeBruns out in Sweden. LeBron James. Well, I'm not dismissing atrocities. I'm saying that they are part of all things that balance themselves out. It's you know, it's a whole thing, and I don't like the fact that atrocities and big things like that can happen, like the floods here in Texas. Like, that is heartbreaking. That is awful. Those type of things are really, but that is what makes us human, is having that empathy and knowing that, you know, we do live in a reality where the only way out of this reality is that end, where we are no longer breathing, and that will come to all of us at some point. And unfortunately, because there's some good humans, some bad humans, you know, and where you are, and just, you know, however it's supposed to manifest out, unfortunately, some people become part of that. It's like how people might have meant to get on a plane but miss the plane, or just change your plans last minute, and that plane crashes. They didn't die, everyone else dies, right? Why? There's something else. Like, there is clearly some kind of weird timing energy that, can I justify that, why that energy would do that? Now, again, if you do follow, and depending on your personal religious beliefs, there is, some people believe in a God that does throw their wrath, right? So maybe if you're looking at it from that perspective, God has a cruel part, right? It depends on your perspective of how you're looking at it, and that part, that's not necessarily mine. Mine, I feel like, is more taking the aspect of, we are here on a spiritual journey, and that I more so want to believe that people signed up to have these things before they came here, so that they were always going to experience the situation that they were going to experience outside of it, but not knowing they were going to be part of it, because we're really in a movie, right? Well, that's exactly it. The Christian God is mostly cruel, which that has been a struggle with myself, in that I don't feel that spiritual, and that doesn't fit me, and that was always why I struggled with organized religion. That's just one example of why I struggled with organized religion. Because I don't resonate with that, right? But that's okay, right? Because we are all inherently want to be healed humans. And whatever our beliefs are, those are just beliefs. We can still be, able to communicate with each other. We can still respect each other's spaces. We can still be friends and neighbors, even if we don't necessarily see everything the same. And again, some of us will change our beliefs or the way we see certain parts of this reality as new information comes. So kind of keeping that in mind too, and being flexible. Well, it's interesting, M Japan, when I've gone down the spiritual realm of people that I've followed, especially with babies that don't make it, that it's said that was also part of their journey. That if you believe in reincarnation, it really comes down that we choose these different lives for different experiences for our soul to grow. If that is a belief you believe in, which I find that resonates a little bit more, because I can kind of make sense of those things a little bit more, which might be just my own coping tools with making a spiritual, being okay with, the atrocities, because it is meant to be, and that at a level we divinely chose these and chose each life to grow and have that experience. That makes me feel a little bit better. Is the truth? I don't know. And I'm always up for, when I go to the other side, I'll get to figure out and learn that, right? Which religion? I'm not sure what you mean, Dejan. Well, yes, and that is true. I'm not going to deny that in Japan. There is some experiences that I've had as being in that unknown that I may not have scientific evidence to explain how they work. Is it a matter of time that science might explain it? Maybe, for sure. And then may it adjust my way of seeing spirituality? For sure. There was still something that created everything. And I do know that there's something fundamental. It may not look anything like any of the religions, any of the belief structures that we currently have. And that might be true, right? Without a good reason. Well, my reasoning would be how it changed my life. So my reasoning, whether I have an actual statistical reason that I can physically show you, no. But I've had my own personal experiences. So that backs up what that is. Because as we go through, especially now, there's lots and lots and lots of things that are, we got fake AI, we got fake people, we got fake everything. And yeah, we're kind of at that borderline where we may not be able to believe everything we see, especially if it's on technology. But what we experience, see, and go through in our own personal lives, I do think there is some divine, spiritual things to it, especially when you are watching and open and connected to your connection to God, the divine, right? So but again, that's my personal belief, right? Well, the changes are, these experiences have changed me. So it's kind of it's worked together. Like, as I changed, the experiences have come, and the experiences have come as I've changed. So I think it's very much a cyclical thing, especially in this process. And I do believe that's part of the spiritual process in my own personal experience, is that it's reciprocal. It works in that circular way. And is God all good? I don't believe that God personally, if it was a human, has a good or bad. It allows things to be, and because I do more so resonate with the idea that people chose what was going to kind of happen, their parents, maybe certain things in their lives, good or bad is kind of irrelevant. It is the spiritual experience in this realm. But again, that's just my own personal belief, right? Well, yes and no, because sometimes when you're counting okay, yeah, because you're having these experiences and those are really good ones, but you're not going to have it every day for sure, right? Because your frequency, your alignment, and even if you're female, your body is different through the month. So to be able to quiet your mind or sit or just be more peaceful can be, especially for females, and because we have hormones, I'm sure it's very similar, and men have their own little cycle. You're not going to be the same person every day. And so your frequency, your alignment, your ability to calm your mind might change daily, because we are humans with a spiritual part, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of being this human is legitimately, I feel like is the struggle that, you're going to have times where you can really align and be in that more divine spiritual side, and then sometimes it's not going to be like that because you're not as open at that moment for whatever reason. So again, it's like it also, just not to like give excuses to why people can't, our lifestyle is not conducive to people staying in the mystical spiritual realm. It's not. The only way that's ever worked is when you have yogis or somebody that literally goes away into a cave and is left alone and doesn't have to interact with the drama, with the daily grind, with the need to provide. That's not really a realistic thing. We want spirituality in the floor of our mind, the connection to God, whatever it is, and be living as ethically, morally, and as good as we can. However, to constantly be in that vibration at this moment in time is really difficult, because we still experience limitation in this realm, and we still have to go out. We can't just hide in a little cave, most of us. If you can, great. Most of us still have to go out into the world and actually interact with others or whatever it is, right? Well, that's exactly it. I'm enjoying this in Japan because I find that very, very similar. Is that when you start talking about things, it's difficult, especially because people get really sensitive about these type of topics. And the only way we can grow is if we can have these conversations and go, okay, well, I can appreciate that's where you come from. You appreciate where I can come from, and that, we want the best for each other. So what does it matter how we get there if we really truly want to care for each other as humanity, right? And like I said, with this next 30 days for the full moon that we just got about an hour ago, it is all about putting our energy into what we want to create, and really, really keeping ourselves out of what we want to create, because what we don't want to create, what we don't, because the energies are very open to producing whatever we're putting our energies into. So if we're in that lower vibration, we want to avoid adding extra energy to continue manifesting that out, right? And that's just a good daily practice anyways. It just seems much more apparent during this time. Hello, Royal King. Shafts and balls. There is no shafts and balls, but thank you, Jack of the Beanstalk. Yes, that is the wrong chat. Well, it's my truth, right? So I can demonstrate it as my own personal truth, which I personally believe and feel in my being because I've seen it help me. And so I believe in it, and I know it helps people, and I've seen it help other people. So I can assist with it. The reality is there is no right or wrong way at this moment. Until we have more knowledge, more information, when it comes into the spiritual, religious realm, there is not enough until you go into, there's just not enough right now to say that any of that stuff is even like holds water. You know, you start going to some of those ancient scriptures, there's a lot of stuff that's been left out. There's a lot of stuff that isn't being translated, and it's an interesting thing. So it doesn't matter what you're holding on to. Yeah, that might be your personal belief, and my conviction comes to help people and help them with their mind and getting yourself in a good spot. So positive quotes, positive oracle cards that just give you an inspiration to do for your day or give you some guidance. I have a conviction to help people heal, and the tools that have worked for me will work for most people. But again, if you have limitations and you are built walls that these things will not help you, then they won't help you, right? You're not even going to be open to that. And again, you know, as I said, I am very flexible and will be willing to change my opinion. So that's why I'll never sell and be like, you have to do this, or this is the only way. I want to provide extra tools to assist you, and then you go through your own process of how you want to heal and using the tools and the people around that resonate with you. Is there anything one cannot believe on faith? I'm not sure what you mean, Old Scratch. So if your experience is not, I don't know. No, probably not. I'm not gonna lie, in Japan, I would not. If I had not had the spiritual experiences that I have had from being diligent in my spiritual practices of connecting to God, I would not feel this way, because I didn't. Before I went down and started using these tools and techniques, I didn't have a relationship with the divine. I had a repulsion to organized religion based on my experiences. I struggled with the word God and was in a very spiritual crisis point in my late 20s. And going through the practice of making an emphasizing on connecting to God and finding the truth was what changed my life. And that was mine. It's very much like when people have that similar experience into a religion or into whatever it is. I was not like this at all. And I was never into any of that. And I believed there was something bigger than me, and that was about where I was. Just to give you a perspective. Well, now my relationship is finding out how to connect. That's what I'm doing all the time, is fixing my mind, my energy, my frequency, and using these tools to assist all of you out there, and essentially assisting or giving these tools to you, so whatever works for you will help you evolve. And my relationship is now about healing myself so I can connect deeper and deeper to that knowing that we're part of something bigger, right? We are part of something bigger. That I have no doubt. Everything else, you know, my own experiences added to why I now have that belief. And if I wouldn't have had them, I would not have that belief. Well, yeah, you know what? As per the Christian, I probably have. I'm very sure I have destroyed every rule that exists. And did I bring my personal God? I don't know. I don't think it's my own personal God. I have a soul, and I have a higher self, and then there's an energy, the God behind. I've created my own personal relationship, is how I see it, and my own personal connection. And I don't believe that I have to go through an entity, a person, to connect. Can I prove it? Well, you can't prove it, Old Scratch. It's very much like, even if you go into organized religions, they can't prove anything. They can tell you these are written words. They can. However, everything is printed by human. Everything has been edited by human. We know there's scriptures and there's chapters and stuff that they've kept out. And I've had this conversation where they're like, well, they don't need them because they don't talk about Jesus when you go into the Christianity. Like, yeah, but you need context. So when you're cutting out things and you're translating it, and it's controlled by the conglomerate that runs most of this world, everything is questionable. Everything is questionable. If man plays in it and controls some aspect of it, it's not the written word from that entity, the God. It's not directly from God to us. It's going through all these publishers. It's going through all these other people that have edited it or changed a wording or translate it, and they can't translate it exactly how it was. These are questions that I personally had. And again, you know, if it works for you, wonderful. We need to be connected to God. And if you're connected to God and you found that, however you did it, great. What I want to do is assist those that are looking for other ways and other tools that I have personally felt have helped me, for sure, mentally and spiritually, because it's one, like how our brain is, right? Yep, old scratch. You don't actually know what's true. Like, you don't. So you can, you know, you got to look at it that way too. Like, you don't know what's really true. What I'm offering is a process to help you calm down. Get yourself out of the stress, out of the anxiety, out of the anger. Get yourself back into the moment. And if you're highly religious, if you want to think about it, if you believe the devil can take you over, that's going to be in moments of anger. That's the devil taking over, not in moments when you become at peace and you become open to finding that harmony in your mind and body and aligning and that frequency. So I don't claim to solve, and I am nobody's guru. I am here to assist and give tools that worked for me. And that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to offer it from my heart center. And you can tell me it's not, but it is from my heart. I know it's from my heart because I feel it. And I know that I'm here to help heal and serve. And I didn't come to do a traditional way. I know this. I know I didn't. And I've always struggled because I do not fit in the normal box. And that has, because it didn't resonate with me. And that's okay, you know. You don't have to. If it resonates with you, that's wonderful. Great. Well, I'm just talking about it in that terms because somebody brought that up about getting pushback about teaching, because they're in a Catholic Christian, one of the ends of the Christianity, and was getting pushback about teaching this way of meditating to calm their mind because they're scared the devil will take over their mind when they become peaceful. And my comment is like, well, if you really want to think about it, if you know, what do you resonate with? Do you resonate that devil's going to take over when you're peaceful and calm, or when you're legitimately anger, rage, and then, you know, that's how people go to jail, because they've done something bad in that heat of that emotional rage. That, in my opinion, is being taken over by something that's demonic. I'm just saying, but that's just again, everything's my personal opinion. What I offer is the tools to get you into that peace of mind. Well, my evidence is my own personal experience, old scratch. So I'm not, so you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. That is, you know what? That is the key of this realm and this life. You actually get to do whatever you want. You get to choose how you live your life. You get to choose who you interact with. You get to choose your life. I do sound insane to people who want to be told what to do. I'm empowering you to feel and intuitively find your life and that connection. Exactly, and that's why there's so many sects of Christianity, because they can't agree, because everything is translated, and even within religions, you have all the subdivisions of religion because they can't agree. So we're struggling because we can't even agree within our own religions. How are you going? You're coming to attack me because I don't have the same beliefs as you. It's not going to help, because you're not going to convince me anything different at my age. I've gone through this, right? I've had so many experiences with people like yourself, Mr. Old Scratch, of where, you know, people are like, oh, you don't believe the right thing. That is your opinion. That is totally your opinion. You have no proof, no evidence, and there's no solid ground to prove that what I see and believe is wrong compared to what you see and believe, because it's called a belief. And really, if you want to break it down, it's a be-lie. So I guess we're all being lied to, right? No, that's true. And Japan is that they do use the personal experience to justify the religion. That is true, right? So in fairness, that's also how I justify my own connection to God, is from my own experience. I didn't get it through a religious organized group. I got it through using tools. It started through yoga. It started through using breath. I used meditation and calming my mind, and then putting out my intention, which when I started this path was about seeing the truth. That was what I brought. I legitimately meditated on a regular basis every day on the truth for months. And the reason I was kind of had the fire lit to do this is this was back in like 2010. And I can't remember what I had seen on the news, but I kept going, what happens after this? Like, we never hear any more from this. And I was like, you know what? There's got to be an innate truth. So I started meditating on God to present situations to show me truth. And I'm not gonna lie, my own, like, the things that I came across, the information, and how my life changed through this process convinced me that there is something bigger. And when you ask for help from God, God will give you the tools to see you through. Again, am I telling you to join my religion? I'm not doing any religion. I'm giving you tools to calm your mind. So that's all I do. All I offer is things that worked for me to assist you. Yes, Old Scratch. Yeah, that's the same in personal truths can use to justify anything. Yeah, that's like going to church and having a religious experience is the same thing right there, because that experience justifies that experience, right? Well, I don't know. I feel God. I feel it. I don't have the right words. And I didn't know I was getting tested for it. I would have researched what God well, I do find they're very interesting things. Like, God spelled backwards is dog. So I find that very interesting that dogs are, slated to be man's best friend. And I feel like there's a lot of component that they were here to assist us from, emotionally, especially during these type of times where people are literally insane. Yes, thank you, Old Scratch. The reality is, I'm sure, based on the studies recently, it was like, last time I saw it was something like 85% of the population have mental illness. So I don't know what your point is, except for the fact that if it's insane, help people and help them get their stress level down, get to calmness, and get all those flight or fight reactions out, so they're not in that high thing of stress and anxiety and making themselves ill. I am definitely insane, because that's what I would like to help people do. Well, whose reality do you live in, Old? Like, whose reality? That is the question. Whose reality are you living? Are you living the talking box reality of what they're telling you? Are you living the reality of when you go outside and interact with people? Are you living the reality of the internet and this? Because all three of those alone are different realities alone. So, what reality are you resonating with? And you clearly like this, because, whatever. But I'm just saying, what reality are you living in? Because I'm pretty sure like I said, there's at least three, if not already, the supplemental of how much they divided us as humans, that literally doesn't matter where you go, it's left and right. Doesn't matter what country you're in, doesn't matter. We've got people left and right. And that's another reality where you're just fighting each other, and that's another level of a reality. So whose reality are you even living, right? So anyways, there we go. Go into I've gone way down the rabbit hole, way more than I wanted to, because all I came here to do tonight was that little journey to help get you calm, help reduce the stress, and clear the mind. Because, like I said, these next few weeks, we want to be clear-minded, and we want to put the energy of what we want to create out. And if you find that a benefit, wonderful. Please take this away, keep it in your mind. Whenever you feel yourself getting pulled out of alignment, or start to notice those negative thoughts, like, oh, this lady doesn't have the same beliefs as me, I don't like her, just acknowledge, and then go back to, I am healthy and aligned. And the more we notice our thoughts, the more we notice what is pulling our energy out of that alignment of being in the relaxed state, the easier it's going to be to come back into that state of being, which is going to help you physically. And that is the point. You're physically going to feel better, you're mentally going to feel better, and let's create what we want going forward. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Again, thank you, M Japan. I hope you get to join me when I go live again on Sunday. I'll be putting that in, so if you haven't, please do subscribe. I would love if you guys could subscribe. And if you did like it, I would appreciate that. If you didn't, that's okay. You can dislike it. I get dislikes all the time. You don't have to like what I said. We can agree to disagree. However, I feel like the majority of us all do agree that we need to heal our minds, right? And I feel like we got to find the common ground amongst all of us, no matter if we have these differentiations or differentiating beliefs between politics, religions, whatever it is. Let's just come back to being humans, having a human experience, and respecting each other, right? And I respect you and truly, truly appreciate you for tuning in. And please, feel free to rewatch that and go to the front. It's within the first couple minutes. I'll put a timestamp in there, and please give me feedback if you enjoyed it, if you liked the meditation point of it, and yeah, because I'd love to fine tune it a little bit more. Because as I mentioned, I want to help and show you some of the tools that I use that you can use with your own spiritual evolutional practice or just to heal your mind. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a wonderful night. Thank you again. Good night.